I had been married to Elizabeth for 10 years. We were the couple everyone envied. I was a successful businessman, and she was a caring housewife. Our marriage seemed perfect, but one day I discovered something that forever changed my perception of my wife. This video is made to be enjoyable to listen to anywhere, in the car, during dinner, on a walk, or while relaxing. So, enjoy the story wherever you are. One day, coming home earlier than usual, I noticed Elizabeth nervously locking her phone. At first, I didn't think much of it, dismissing it as simple curiosity. But a few days later, I accidentally saw a message from an unknown person on her phone screen. My heart started beating faster, but I controlled myself and didn't make a scene. "Hey, Elizabeth," I started one evening while we were having dinner. "You seem busier lately. Is there something new on the horizon?" She flinched slightly but smiled at me. "Just a lot to do around the house and with the kids," she replied, trying not to meet my eyes. I decided to act smart. Direct accusations might not yield results, so I devised a plan for revenge. The first step was to follow Elizabeth. I hired a private detective, who soon brought me evidence. She was seeing another man. The detective took photos proving their meetings in various places, restaurants, parks, and even at our home when I wasn't there. Now I had enough information for further action. I began crafting fake letters from her lover, where he supposedly confessed that he was using Elizabeth for his selfish purposes and never truly loved her. I made sure these letters would appear in her hands at the most unexpected moments. One evening, when I was alone in my office, I started writing the first letter. "Dear Elizabeth," I wrote, imitating her lover's handwriting. "I need to tell you the truth. I used you for my benefit. I never cared about your feelings." I knew this letter had to be delivered at the right moment to create doubts and anxiety. I placed it in her purse, knowing she would find it in the morning when getting ready to meet her friends. The next day, when Elizabeth found the letter, her face turned pale. She nervously looked around, trying to figure out who could have left it. I watched her from afar, trying not to show that I knew about her distress. "What's wrong, dear?" I asked that evening during dinner. "Nothing, just a little tired," she replied, but I could see she was trying to hide her anxiety. Elizabeth began losing trust in her lover. She suffered, tormented by doubts, and couldn't understand what was happening. In despair, she tried to talk to me, but knowing about her betrayal, I remained cold and distant. "Eric, I need to talk to you," she started one evening. "Sure, what's going on?" I replied, trying to sound interested. I feel like something's wrong between us. You've become so cold," she could barely hold back her tears. "Maybe it's just work." "I have a lot going on," I said, trying not to reveal my true feelings. Meanwhile, I continued my revenge. I prepared another blow, letters in which the supposed lover demanded money from Elizabeth and threatened to expose their relationship. I made sure these letters would be the last straw for her. Elizabeth was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. She didn't know what to do and, in desperation, decided to turn to me, hoping for forgiveness and support. Finally, the day came when she, crying, came to me begging for help. "Eric, please help me," she cried. "I made a terrible mistake. I don't know what to do." Playing the role of a caring and understanding husband, I embraced her with open arms. I listened to her story, pretending to know nothing. She told me about her suffering, and I seemed to take her confession with understanding. But deep down, I knew my revenge plan had succeeded. At this stage, I decided it was time to reveal everything. I showed Elizabeth all the letters I had forged. She was in shock, realizing she had been under her own husband's control all this time. She understood that my revenge was cruel but just. "Elizabeth," I began once she had calmed down. "There's something you need to know. All these letters, they were fake. I wrote them." She looked at me with horror and disbelief. "How could you?" she whispered. "I knew about your betrayal, and this was my way of punishing you," I confessed. Elizabeth realized she had lost the trust and love of the man who had been everything to her. Even though I had achieved my goal, I felt the bitterness of a ruined marriage. We both stood at the brink of new lives, full of uncertainty and challenges. Elizabeth began actively searching for a job to become independent of me. She found a position as a marketer in a large company, where she had to face tough competition. Gradually, she started achieving success, but memories of betrayal and revenge haunted her. I didn't stay idle either. I understood that seeking revenge was wrong and started seeing a psychologist to sort out my feelings. The therapist helped me realize that my revenge was a reaction to pain, but not a solution to the problem. I began working on myself, trying to become better and learn to forgive. Months passed. I felt ready to meet with Elizabeth and discuss our future. I called her and suggested meeting at the same cafe where we had our last conversation. She agreed. The meeting was tense. We both had changed over this time, but we were willing to give each other another chance. We talked for a long time, reminiscing about the past, discussing our mistakes, and how to avoid them in the future. I realized that seeking revenge was wrong, I said, looking into her eyes. I want to start over, without revenge and grudges. I want that too, Elizabeth replied. I'm ready to work on our relationship if you are. We decided to try again. We started with small steps, talking, spending time together, but not rushing into any serious decisions. Gradually, our relationship began to recover. We learned to trust each other, express our feelings, and not hide our emotions. This journey was not easy. There were moments when it seemed like all was in vain and we would never restore the harmony we once had. But we didn't give up. Working with the psychologist helped us understand each other better and avoid old mistakes. With time, we realized we could trust each other again. We accepted our mistakes and learned to forgive. Our relationship became stronger and deeper than ever. We learned to appreciate each other and understand that true love doesn't exist without trials. Years passed. Elizabeth and I were happy together. Our children, Thomas and Emma, grew up in an atmosphere of love and understanding. We tried to be an example for them, showing that even the most difficult problems can be solved if there is a will and readiness to work on oneself and the relationship.